Christian, and thank you, Renee and Melissa, and the entire staff and volunteers at DCAPA for having me and my family and our film Bad X here tonight. It's is really, really special to be able to share this film with the DC Asian community. So, again, thank you so much for coming out. This is a film about family and hope and what the American dream looks like in today's climate, in the year 2020, what we all went through together. I hope it shows that, not only the resilience of my family, but also the resilience of us as Asian Americans. So thank you so much for being here this evening. Thank you, DCAPA, for all that you do. Very excited to share this film with you all. I hope you enjoy watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Siev, and I am the Vice President of the Board of APA Film, and thank you everybody for coming out tonight for the closing night film for APA Film Festival. So as the chairs are getting set up, I'd like to invite our speaker up tonight, Rachel Siev.
Thank you, Renee. And we'll line up over here. And I would like to bring up some very special guests, starting with now my wife, Vasquez, who will also produce on the film. And then my brother-in-law, who's also an executive producer, Mike Meinhold, and my sister, the fierce Jaclyn, and baby Rhea. And then, of course, the people who made this all possible, who made this American dream possible, who made it, why the reason why we're standing up here, my parents, Chun and Rachel Siev. Thank you.
So we are short a couple of mics, but I'm pretty sure you guys are good. You're used to sharing, so we'll share. And then, so I'm just going to ask a couple of questions to get everything started, and then please, we'd love to get some questions from the audience. It's a small theater. You can project, I'm sure. So anyway, well, thank you so much, David. I feel like people really liked your film. Congratulations to you and the entire family. Really remarkable. So, I think that as a documentary filmmaker, it seems like a lot of times the inclination is run towards the thing with your camera, and which is what you did for Badass, and just start rolling and see what you get. At what point did you know that you had a film?
That's a good question, and I think I need to go back to why I started even filming in the first place. Right, it was a pandemic, March 2020. I became an unemployed filmmaker, like many filmmakers that were working in the industry at our time. We were one of the first that got shut down. So I moved back to Bad X, and and I always knew I wanted to share my family story and that of my parents. My father being a Cambodian refugee who came here in 1979, and my mom, a Mexican-American woman, and these are two passionate, hardworking individuals that laid this foundation for this American dream, being the restaurant that we all really built together. So I knew that was a story I had to share one day. I didn't know how that would come to life. March 2020 happens, and I come up with I have all this time in the world. I'm going to just sit down with my parents and just have conversations and just, get this whole history of how the restaurant came to be where it was. So I filmed them, and got their story and did this for hours every day with all the free time I had. And then on the flip side, I was also just, I'm a filmmaker, so I always like to have a camera out. And I also knew it was this interesting time of all of us as young adults living under one roof. So I began filming life every day as it was. And there was two things going on. There was me trying to recapture this story of how we built the restaurant to where it is today, but there was also just these home videos that I just wanted to grasp onto and hold on to for my own memories, because here we are, one family under one roof, trying to navigate this pandemic, together. And I think the moment where, I don't even know if it was an exact moment, but where I realized that the two things I was capturing were coming together was when I realized, okay, I captured, this retelling of the American dream, and here we are living in one of the most uncertain times in recent history, and still trying to keep that very same dream alive. And that's when I realized, like, okay, like, these two stories, like, there's a dichotomy that forms there, right? Like, there's a story of building the American dream, but there's a story of keeping it alive. And I think while we were in the edit, and while we were living through these moments was when, that moment came out, like, okay, this is a film. Like, this is a film about what it takes to keep this American dream alive in the year of 2020.
But it's also a film about making a film, too.
It is. It really is. But the thing is, though, like, it's a film about making a film, but it's also a film about, the aspect of the film about making a film is also playing into that American dream, right? Like, I'm able to live my own American dream by retelling my family's story, and we were able to, sell this film, and I'm able to carry on our family's story, and that becomes part of the American dream, right? It doesn't just stop at my parents; it carries on, in future generations. So yeah, you're right. It is a film about making a film, but like that aspect, I guess, plays into the same theme of keeping the American dream alive.
Your family is singular. I mean, Cambodian American, Mexican American, and then, you really have expanded in a lot of different ways. And, growing up in Bad Axe, there are probably not very many people like your family. So what was that like for you in terms of trying to forge your identity in this town without, and did you have any benchmarks or did you have anything to compare it to?
I mean, anything to compare, and I'll let Jaclyn speak to this as well too, but like, I know we were just kind of talking about this, but like growing up in Bad Axe, Michigan, like I don't think we would have had our upbringing any other way. We, as much, that I think that we, I don't know if it's the right term, but felt like outsiders in the town, right? Like we also felt the same amount of love from the town at the same time too, right? But it wasn't until I think we moved out of Bad Axe and, went to school in Ann Arbor, Michigan, went to college, and we began to realize a lot of these moments of, feeling like outsiders and the racism, the microaggressions we felt, they weren't our fault, It's just us being who we are, and that being Mexican, Cambodian, American. And I think we gained that perspective that, the upbringing that we had and the reason why we are who we are today is because of Bad Axe. And I think you see that realization, in the film where I'm saying that this is a love letter to Bad Axe because it very much is a love letter to Bad Axe. And love, as we all know, as the people we love in our lives, it's unconditional, right? And that love for Bad Axe is unconditional. So, those benchmarks, I don't think they really came until we grown into, until we grew up into adults and we moved out and we realized that, oh wow, like there's a much bigger world out here, and these experiences that we had growing up, they shaped us into who we are today. But like, I guess if you were to look at, I guess the negative aspects of that, right? Like, it was that realization, like, oh, this wasn't right. Like, the way that we were feeling wasn't because of us. It was because of this town and this community we are a part of. But we take the good and the bad, with that.
Jaclyn, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, so Bad Axe is located in Huron County. Huron County, I don't know if it says it in the film, but it's 97.1% white, and then, the rest is, so we make up a big part of that percent that wasn't, honestly. And so, you always knew that you were different, but you wanted to fit in, right? Like, so you don't really highlight your differences, I guess, as a child, I didn't, and growing up, I didn't. But I would say, for us, obviously the community, and a lot of people have welcomed us. That's why we've been able to survive in Bad Axe and make it as, maybe we didn't as a donut shop, but as a restaurant. So that is, to the credit of the people of Bad Axe. But I would say that, it like what David said, you take the good and the bad, and your frustrations, but your happiness and your joy. You get a little bit of both, and it's just as you can see in the film, as many frustrations as I have with the town, and sometimes with some of the beliefs some people may have and everything, I'm choosing to move back there to raise our family. So, for all that it's worth, we are, at least for right now, at this point in our lives, that's where we're choosing to move back home to raise our family.
So I'm going to ask this question, and then hopefully we have some questions from the audience. So David, for those who aren't familiar, is an alumni of the festival. His short film, Year Zero, screened here in 2018, and it won Best Narrative Short. And it was the story of your dad's escape from Cambodia. So, welcome back. And so clearly, filmmaking is a family affair. So I would love to hear from everybody about what it was like to be making this film together.
Go ahead, Papa.
Well, two things. One of them, I would like to thank you, the APA Film Festival, for adopting our family, allow our family to share the story of our family with the audience. And the other thing, please forgive me for the language that I use, during filming. So I want to apologize for that. And yes, thank you so much for taking your Sunday afternoon to come over and share the story with our family. That means the world to us. And I have to say that it was really difficult. I have a really thick skin. If anybody ever know anything about Cambodia, I lost 7 members of my immediate family. And we lost over 2 million population during that 3.5 years of Khmer regime. So in the meantime, moving to bad acts, to me, just that it can't be any worse than Cambodia. so that's why I say I have a really thick skin. And in the meantime, but you always worry about the future of your well-being, the future of your children. Like I say, I'm a pretty tough guy when it comes to deal with the killing bill, when it comes to deal with everything else, but I'm a pretty wumpy guy when it comes to deal with, the fear of somebody will hurt or my family getting hurt. If you have children, for all the father in this room, you know what I'm talking about. I don't care how tough you are. Your children, safety will bring you to your knee. And the other thing, though, too, I just want to say that it takes a lot. It takes a lot to raise 4 really outspoken children. Yes, it does. And then, it was pretty scary. It's really, how do I say it, nerve-wracking, angry, fear, a little bit of everything put together. But for all the years that I tried so hard to raise a good children, thank God this was a time that I learned from my children as a father. And we raised them right. As an Asian American, as the people of color in this country, we come a long way, but we also have a long way to go. We have a long way to go. Folk, as a parent, sometimes it is the right thing to let your children speak up for the right thing. And support their courage.
So, Rachel, what was it like being part of this film?
Well, it was scary. It was frustrating. I had to be a referee quite a bit throughout. Well, even now, actually, it doesn't stop just because the movie's not being made. But it's a daily challenge. Raising children. Now we have grandchildren. I think it was a learning experience for all of us to go through, and to actually see it like on the screen. It's much different than like in your own living room. So it's been a very I think it turned out to be a very good, positive experience that we've had in the last few months doing the film festival circuit, and we're just so happy and grateful to be here today with all of you.
So, Mike and Kat, as people who got thrown into, the unknown, you're still here. So, what were you thinking as everything was unfolded and here you are, in the thick of it with the Siev family?
It's a little difficult for me coming from a family. We didn't have arguments like these guys have. and what you saw in the film, I've been witnessing that for 15 years. You would see me put my head down and not chime in, and that's just years of experience of not getting involved in the fight. It's a lose-lose for me. So. But, it's, when David brought the camera home and started filming us, I think he could have got an hour-and-a-half documentary on us telling him, get the camera out of our face. But I'm glad he touched on the stories of, Bad X is my hometown too. And it's a side of things I didn't know growing up, seeing what they went through. So I obviously experienced it through Jaclyn, but I'm glad they're telling their story so other people from Bad X can see it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, David and I have been together for about 6 years now, and as soon as I met his family, I could just tell what an influence they've been on his life. And when we decided to go to Bad Axe from New York during COVID, it was a hard transition. I had never spent that much time in Bad Axe. But at the end of the day, I feel so lucky to be a part of this family and to have spent so much time with them during COVID, and really getting to know them and just seeing what they've gone through in the town of Bad Axe and what they're still going through and how they've been so resilient. It's made a huge impact on who I am as a person. So I just feel lucky.
So I'd love to see if we have any questions out there. So what was it like to film these difficult moments, and why keep rolling in these difficult situations?
I think part of it was, knowing that all of the moments in the film, as vulnerable as they are, right? Like these are the moments that define our family and like who we are. And when I have the camera rolling, a lot of that is my filmmaker side turning on, right? Like when you're making a story that's personal, you kind of have the filmmaker side, and then you also have like the side of you that's the brother and son, and when these moments were happening, you see these very intimate and oftentimes, aggressive moments, right, happening. I knew that in order for me to share our family's story, I had to show every aspect of who we were, right? Like you really see, I hope you see, every facet of who we are as people. We're imperfect human beings, every single one of us up here, and I think that's why it was important to capture those moments and being a filmmaker who wanted to be honest to the story that was being told, but also respectful to the subjects who were a part of it, that being my family. It was very much a difficult line to constantly hop back and forth on or to ride, because there were moments where, like, my mom and I, we're like the peacemakers in the family. I take a lot from my dad in a lot of ways, but I also take a lot from my mom in so many other ways. And that being, like, usually when these fights happen, I'm the one consoling either Jaclyn and my mom is consoling, my dad. And that's what it normally is, or vice versa. So there are moments in there that after these moments happen, I'm talking to Jaclyn and just trying to have an honest conversation, like as a brother, or with my dad, like as a son. So it was a difficult line to ride on. But I hope that I was able to do it in a way where the story is as truthful as it actually happened, and the story is still, it's serving the point of what I'm hoping it makes. So.
Right there in the blue shirt.
Blue shirt, yeah. Excuse my breath. I grew up in Satellite County.
Oh wow.
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 Welcome.
I don't know if anybody else on your tour is from that area. I want to say how well you captured the thumb of Michigan.
Thank you.
I haven't lived there in a long time. I had to go back in October of 2020 because I was power of attorney for my mother and she was having problems. And I cannot believe how courageous you were. That was the moment that struck me in saying you have to wear a mask in our restaurant. That was not done. Nobody wore a mask. I went into a restaurant with my mother and her caregiver and the server, and they immediately, all three of them, took the mask off as soon as we sat down. And there were no vaccines. And I could go on. The Sandusky Elias Brothers restaurant, which is the only decent restaurant in town. They were Elias Brothers until they refused to follow the regulations, and Elias Brothers said, okay, sorry, just your courage was amazing.
Thank you.
Actually, the woman in the black tank top. That's,
Yeah, hi. So I guess one of the things I have for you, David, as a filmmaker, but also in general.
Ray says hi.
Just taking the show.
I think so.
How did you, growing up in the space that you're growing up in, knowing that conversations need to happen about, within our own families, about Black Lives Matter, with people who are so different from us, about Asian American politics, about masking, about COVID-19. How did you, where do you find the patience to tell such a kind story?
I mean,
And this is for David and Jaclyn as well too. Thank you so much for the work that you guys have done.
no, thank you so much. I think, you know, with this film, finding the patience, or I guess, you know, I mean, this film was really a family affair. Obviously, like, you know, because there's subjects, but also like in the making of it as well too, right? Like, as you can imagine, how as opinionated as my family is, there was no way I would not show them my first rough cut. And so, you know, it was tough because there was a lot of conflicting ideas of what this film could be, should be, you know, will be, and I really took to heart every single person you see on the stage, what their opinions were on how to tell our family story, and believe it or not, I mean, you probably believe it, like nobody had, a lot of people were on different pages, but as a director, you know, like, one of the things I admire about some of my favorite directors, like, you know, Martin Scorsese, he seems like just the most like collaborative person there is, and I really, and even, you know, even one of my former bosses, Jeff Tremaine, who's also an executive producer on this film, I remember he always said, like, the best idea always wins. It doesn't matter who it comes from in the room. And I really took that to heart when making this film and really trying to hear everybody's input, but also trying to stay true to, like, the story that's being told. So I guess I found a lot of that courage, a lot of that patience in the people up here themselves and my family, because I did want to be respectful to them as subjects, but also, you know, tell the truth of the story I set out to tell. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll have other things to add to that. But.
The only thing I was going to add to that was, I mean, David, honestly, this film was a learning experience for our whole family, but for you as well. You know, I think what the film you started with is not the film that the film that we ended with. And I say that with, you know, all the love and respect in the world. I think that when David, and I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm very close, so I do, so I know, you know, the thoughts that are going through his mind is, it was like a healing process for you as well to go through and understand that if we want to tell this story and, you know, tell a story that more people can relate to, not just people like us, but, you know, on a broader, I guess, in a broader term, you know, not make this a story about politics or COVID or the election, but a story about family, which is what I think a lot of people can relate to. Is at the end of the day, you know, Bad X is a story about our family and how different we all are are, but at the same time, we're all different, but we all not just coexist, but genuinely love each other and work towards, making our family a better family, which I hope, kind of reflects like making Bad X into a better Bad X, and then making America into a better America. And the way to, if you want people to listen, it couldn't come from a place of anger and hate, which, not that we hated Bad X, but like, when we first started, maybe you were a little bit more angry.
Yeah, there was a lot of, I think, resentment there when I began filming and started seeing everything that was happening to our country. I think this one would be very different had I made it in 2016, just based on my own personal beliefs versus having the perspective and being in the edit for 2 years afterwards, right? And a lot of that was just learning from these people up here, and wanting to, I guess not wanting to really tell people how to think or what to believe or that this is right and this is wrong, but just showing our perspective and our experience for what it is. And I think all these individuals up here really helped me, as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, get to that point.
I want to add to that part of them. I think the ultimate healing is when the film was featured in Bad X, Downtown Bad X, and that was a moment to define, what the film is about. I'm not a filmmaker by all means, but for anybody that have a doubt and that I wonder this film might be criticized Bad Act, this film might be ripping on Bad Act. Here's the community that for 20-some plus years that, come to your donut shop, your restaurants and all that, now you are shit on us, in other words, which is not, this is a film that after the whole Bad Act can see it. This is a film that nothing but from a filmmaker to pick up the camera and show the moment that we live in during the toughest time, the whole entire world, not just Bad Acts going through. And that was the ultimate healing that from, people that don't share the, the same belief as we are in terms of political alignment. So I think this was it. That was the ultimate healing. When people say, wow, it was the truth. And the truth will prevail. The truth will win. And I think David have showed that really good for that.
Yeah, and a lot of those people, not a lot, but the screening we held at Bad Axe, which was actually 2 months ago, it was really for the donors of the film that helped make it possible, but we also opened up quite a number of seats to just the general public, and some of those people being the skeptics that said they would never support the film, question whether they want to support the restaurant, but did end up showing up to the screening, and I'm so glad they did, because after watching it, many of them said, like, I'm so sorry, I judged this film and judged you before I even had the chance to see it, and I realized that you just pointed turned the camera on and told your family's story for what it was, and that meant a lot, to be able to open up a different perspective from a lot of the people in the community that was different from ours.
Well, unfortunately, I think we're out of time. There's so many other things to talk about, but hopefully everybody can join us for the reception after this and maybe get a few more questions. And David, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about how more people can see this?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we were really fortunate to just be riding this festival wave for the past few months. We world premiered at South by Southwest, ended up selling the film to IFC a week later. Which it's just been an incredible experience knowing that this film is going to reach wider audiences. So it will be out in streaming and in theaters sometime before the end of the year. I think fall 2022 is what they're aiming for. So I hope, word of mouth is so important when, we're an independent film. This is as independent as it gets. So please, get the word out there about the film if you enjoyed it. Follow us on social media, rate us on the Letterboxd, IMDb, whatever it is. Just help get the word out there. We really, really appreciate it. Rhea would appreciate it too. But again, thank you everyone so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much. When the film hits the theaters, everybody here is obligated to bring 5 friends opening weekend, because that's the measure of success how many tickets you sell that opening weekend.
Absolutely.
You can't want more stories about Asian American lives and stories, then you have to go out there and support them. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. We'll be in the reception area if you have any other questions or anything. So thank you.